Oh, hello again. All right, here we are with this particular. I got this PDF, not necessarily PowerPoint, but I want to go over this sheet here. I'll probably present it to class to you also. But this is dealing with different forms of energy. As you notice here in this PDF, you have 9 different forms of energy. There are heat, light, sound, electrical, kinetic, also called movement, which you're very familiar with that one. Elastic, gravitational potential, nuclear, and chemical. So these are the ones we named at the very beginning of this unit also. So now let's look at these various pictures, right? Pairs of pictures. And we're going to decide which form of energy they represent. So obviously each pair represents a certain type of energy that we're going to place in the particular box here, okay? Now, you can write down these samples, and I'll try to give you a printout later. At least write down the name of each sample, since you won't have the picture, I assume, in your interactive notebooks. And then you write down what form they fit under. So let's go. What do you think the sun and light bulb here? What form of energy do you think that might be? Give you a chance to fill in your answer. Okay. That would seem like it's that along the line of light energy. Okay. Now, let's move on to our next one. A bonfire and a Bunsen burner. What form of energy do you think that would be? I would say that would fall under heat, or known as, what's the other term? We call it also what? Thermal. Okay. Okay. Let's move on down. So now we have here speeding bullet and a galloping horse. What form of energy do you think of the 9? I assume you would say kinetic. Keeping in mind our 9 forms, right? A climber climbing and a rocket gaining height. That would seem like it would be kinetic also. Alright. What about a hamburger and coal? What do you think that would suffice as? What type of would you think that would suffice as? What do you think? Say chemical? And we spoke on earlier about example of heat transfer, and we talked about as we eat in the morning we have that chemical energy, right? Coming from our food. That's then changed into a certain type of energy in our bodies to be utilized later. Okay. Let's move on down further. I'm going to go back up. Let's review our 9 forms again. Make sure you understand the ones we're talking about. Heat, light, sound, electrical, kinetic, which is also movement, gravitational potential, nuclear, and chemical. Okay? And we'll go back down here. Look at our next set of ones here. Okay. Overhead power lines, electrical cables. Obviously, that would be electrical, right? Megaphone, singing zebra. What do you think? Hope you said sound. A stretched bow and a catapult. What's going on in this picture? Along the lines of elastic, right? And elastic what? I hope you are thinking elastic potential energy. Okay. Move down a little bit further. The last two we have a nuclear power plant and an atom bomb. Of course, I was assuming that would be nuclear energy. Now, if we go back up briefly and take a look at the ones we've chosen, what could we have done differently that would suffice for gravitational potential? You see any of those that might have sufficed for gravitational potential? I don't necessarily see one in that particular picture. Because the rocket itself, if the rocket itself was already at a certain height, possibly at a pause point, that might be gravitational potential, because of course Earth's gravity would pull it back down. Just as it would if you were thinking about the climber itself, pause at a certain pause point, climbing his way up the mountain, he's at a certain pause point. That's gravitational potential, because he has the potential energy for his gravity falling back down toward the center of Earth. Okay? So, now we look here at the very bottom of our presentation here. You see a couple of activities you might could do. Number 2 here says, let's look at each of the pictures in the table. Some of them give us more than one form of energy. Writes down 3 examples in a sense like this. Here's an example. The Bunsen burner gives off heat and light energy. So, what other examples can you come up with, you think, that give off dual or more than one type of energy in your particular diagram of the ones above? I want you to write those down. You don't have to know, but we'll discuss that in class. You also can do this extension activity on the bottom here. It says, you're going to write a story and mention all the forms of energy in the story, or produce a cartoon strip mentioning all the forms of energy. Would be even more challenging and greater if you could mention the forms of energy from a perspective of it converting or transferring from one state to the other. It would be even more challenging. Alright, this is in this particular presentation. Talk to you next time.